So with COVID right now,
Yeah.
everyone's talking about nursing homes. They're talking about the older people that are, stuck there, and it got me
Yeah.
thinking about the cost of that type of service. And
Right.
so I kind of thought this one might be kind of a fun topic for this afternoon, talking about what are going to be the long term, because I'm 38 years old right
Right.
now, right? So you fast forward 30 some years, right? And I'm going to be getting real close to
Right.
needing to think about that. What are going to be the costs that go along with that? Have you done any of the calculations or thought through that at all?
Yeah, and these will be general, but first of all, I feel horrible for them. I'm sure you do too, for those people that are in there. I mean,
I thought you
people
were
have
saying
to
you don't
wave.
feel horrible about me.
No, I don't feel horrible about you.
First of all, I feel horrible about
yeah,
you.
Yeah, exactly.
You are going to be getting older.
But when you look at what's going on with this COVID situation,
Yeah.
it's just been horrible. So I feel sorry for them. I think some of them are starting to open back up again, which is great. But costs. So you probably won't want to hear this. It's kind of like the conversation about college. Like,
Yep.
hey, I've got a 2-year-old child. When they
What
go
should
to
I go
college,
no way.
yeah, and all of a sudden you come back and you're like, you need 300,000. What? So same kind of conversation, same reaction when you look at long-term care.
Yep.
It's one of the number one financial things that can happen to a couple that have went all through their life, saved and did the right things and
We're diligent.
Yeah, and they get to retirement and they spend a couple great years and something happens in long-term care and it's like, whoa, how am I going to write a check for $80,000 a year for care, for long-term care? We're sitting here in Mankato right now. The average cost of long-term care is north of $70,000
Right now.
in a nursing now.
Wow.
So now add 6% inflation to that and grow that up until you're 80 years old and start to take a look at those numbers.
And it is like college on steroids.
Yeah. And so how are you going to handle that? And so much of the legislations and rules and things are built around the fact that you just can't give away your stuff anymore and say, I'm broke, you pay for me when I go into a nursing home. You just can't do it anymore. And so you're either going to self-insure, which means you got your own investments and your own Social Security, that's going to pay for it, or you have to buy some type of coverage. And then there's a bunch of different coverages that are out there. At 44 years old, I bought long-term care.
Wow.
Pretty young.
It's pretty young.
Hope I never use it. But what I bought will provide about $500,000 of coverage for me when I'm 80 years old.
Okay.
And that's not going to cover it all. But if my opinion is if you can cover 60% to 70% of that long-term care cost when you get to be 80, 85, then your other investments and your other things that you own, your Social Security and things will help pay for that care. So I don't think you need 100%, but yeah, you either self-insure or you insure. And it's not necessarily cheap to insure either, and it's not for everybody. There's people out there, oh, you need long-term care. It's not for everybody to have insurance. But you should consider it, and I have people considering much younger now than 20 years ago.
Yeah,
used to be all of
44.
it used to be all of a sudden I'm 60 years old. Should I look at long-term care? And now all of a sudden it's mid to late 40s, early 50s saying, what's the cost going to be down the road, and should I insure for that now when I have income to pay for the insurance premium?
So let's just take a hypothetical. Let's say that there's a gentleman who is married who has 2 kids, right? And they're 25, 35, 45. When is the right time, only knowing those couple of little parameters that you'd say, maybe now you should start to think about this?
Yeah, I really don't start to think about it until you're in your 40s.
Until you're in your 40s?
Yeah. It's just, in fact, some carriers won't even write you if you're younger than that.
Really?
Yeah, because for some reason
It's another lifetime.
It's not there. However, what I'm seeing is people 45, let's say, buy a 10-year paid policy, meaning for 10 years they're going to pay premiums. Done for the rest of their lives. And now they've got a policy that'll help pay for long-term care down the road. So now they bought at 45, they're working, their kids are gone potentially, they have income to pay for it.
That's
They get
cool.
to 55 and it's done, and it's put away.
So what type of premium? I mean, is that like $1,000 a month or $500 a month or $200 a month if you do long-term care, if you're healthy, female, got a wife and 2 kids?
Yeah, if you're in your middle 40s and you're going to do a 10-year type pay.
Yeah, just
it's
ballpark.
I would say around $5,000 a year that you would put in, so $50,000 total.
Yep.
And what's interesting about these newer policies is that there's still cash value in it. So let's say,
So you can borrow against it if you need.
not necessarily borrow, but take it. So let's say you're 45, you pay to your 55, you get to be 70, and you're like, I just need some money. I don't want that long-term care anymore. A lot of them have money that you just pull back out. Maybe everything you paid in, maybe a little bit less, depending on what you purchase. and it has a death benefit. So if you die and you never use long-term care, somebody's going to get back that 50 grand that you put into it. So cash back. If you die, you get it. But if you live and use long-term care, now you're leveraging that 50 grand to maybe 250 or 350 or 450 or 500,000 when you're older to use for long-term care expenses. And that's kind of a hybrid type policy. So just understand there's different policies out there, but it's not free. But this cost, I mean, when you do the numbers, it's like college on steroids, sticker shock.
Yeah.
When you look at the cost of care down the road for long-term care, it's super expensive. So you got to figure it out.
And maybe you don't have to answer this if it makes you a little uncomfortable, but have you helped 5 people through this, 20 people through this, 2 people, 50 people? Give me a sense for how many times you've been through this process.
Yeah, that's a good question. This is totally a guess, but I would say it's between 75 and 100 families
That you've helped through
that we've helped with it.
long-term
Yeah,
care
yeah.
process. And that's enough to know what the pattern is.
Yeah, and you said process because process is the right word. It's a process that you have to, and it's not for everybody, but you have to figure it out, and you got to think ahead because you can't give away your assets. If I was going to a nursing home tomorrow, I couldn't write a check for all my assets, give it away, and say I'm broke because there's a 5-year look back.
Yeah.
And they wanted to go unlimited, meaning that they can go back anytime and look at whether they get that through or not is another question. So if you can't give it away, the only thing you can do is pay for it or self-insure. And so you've got to figure it out while you're healthy. And if you're younger and healthy, the premiums are less. You get more for your buck. Just got to put the plan in place. But yeah, it's a sticker shock for sure.
Long-term health care. All right. Well, thank you so much, and we'll see you back here next time.
You bet. Thanks, Matt.